was a nice set of slides there. Thank you very much. And again, welcome to the Center for Island Sustainability Conference this year. This is the 11th year. The first one of the panelists I'd like to introduce is Dr. Carlos Crespo. He is a professor in the Oregon Health and Science University and Portland State University Joint School of Public Health and Vice Provost for Undergraduate Training in Biomedical Research at Portland State University. Dr. Crespo is also the Principal Investigator of the PSU Build Exito Undergraduate Research Training Program funded by the National Institutes of Health, making PSU a center for innovation that supports undergraduates, including those from diverse backgrounds, on their pathways to become scientific health researchers. Welcome, Dr. Crespo.
Thank you.
Tell us more about Build Exito. How are you engaging and preparing youth with skills to create a sustainable global future?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's a real pleasure. I'm actually an island boy from Puerto Rico also. So one of the things that we did with Build Exito was to identify places where students are able to pursue their curiosity about research. And one of the things that we know is that research and science, it's better when you have a variety of people with different backgrounds and experiences. What we aim to do with Build Exito was to provide that pathway for students early in their entry in college to identify a long-term, hands-on research experience. One of the things that we know is that when the students are engaged in something that they actually have an interest in working on, they're more likely to remain in school, they're more likely to complete school, and they're more likely actually to seek graduate school. And we achieve that by identifying a multi-tier mentor program. So they work with a peer mentor. They also work with a faculty who advise and provide career mentorship. But they also work long-term with a research mentor. And these three different types of mentor, they provide a variety of supplemental education that the students are able to take advantage of as they pursue graduate school. Our partnership is with University of Guam, but also with Northern Mariana College, American Samoa Community College, and also with the University of Hawaii and Alaska. And we also partner with the Oregon Health Science Universities, where there are a variety of research mentors who do state-of-the-art research, and that's basically what they do all the time. And they have been graciously happy to take students to be mentored. And then we also identify other research mentors in Guam, in Alaska, in Hawaii. So students who do not have the opportunity to transfer to Portland State are able to participate in long-term research mentorship in their home university.
Thank you. As somebody who hires a lot of recent college graduates, I mean, I can't stress how important it is to have these research experiences, because it really shows the work that they've done on their resume when they've had these research experiences. So thank you for all of the work that you're doing with UOG and the School of Health and all of your other partners. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Kå'eo Duarte, and he is the Vice President of Community Engagement and Resources at Kamehameha Schools. Kå'eo's group oversees Kamehameha Schools' community-facing resources and initiatives in 9 regions statewide, leading both INA and educational portfolios to unify and elevate people, programs, and lands for more effectiveness and impact. This includes more than 360,000 acres of agricultural and conservation lands, community resource centers, and sustainability initiatives. He is also the chairperson of Hawaii Green Growth UN Local 2030 Hub, which develops local solutions to global sustainability and challenges, building on island culture and values. Welcome. Tell us about what you're doing with Kamehameha schools. How are you engaging and preparing youth with the skills to create a global future, a sustainable global future?
Hi, aloha, thank you for having me. I believe the journey to a sustainable global future and in our K-12 education and education efforts is really a journey of well-being and is rooted in relationships as a Native Hawaiian institution. So journey is a well-being of place and people, of relationships with place and people. And therefore, the best way to ensure the next generation creates a resilient, sustainable future is to ensure the education journey builds firm relationships and hence deeper understanding with themselves, with their families, with their communities, and with the places and contexts they live in. And to be sure, when I say family, I mean to our extended family who live in our oceans, our forests, our rivers, and our soils. So if you have a deep relationship with your place and extended family, it is highly likely you will respect it, cherish it, care for it. You tend not to destroy something you're deeply connected to. So we need to do this through a more expansive view of education that is oriented to place and culture for learners of all ages, preschoolers to adults, reactivating the original classroom of lands and ocean landscapes, and to life and career-connected learning contexts. So here in Hawaii, we're linking traditional Hawaiian learning spaces to the more accepted conventional learning institutions, intentionally blurring the lines between campuses and communities, connecting to practitioners as expert teachers, and to work in project-based learning. The application of learning by doing is fundamental to both mastery and innovation. So in addressing these education systems, we also need to acknowledge the larger social justice and social economic issues so that our kids are prepared for learning with full tummies, happy hearts, curious, and ready to engage. So while we're not there yet, one other thing we're trying to do with others is how do we change our outcomes for our learners and for our teachers that expand beyond just outcomes around academic test scores, outcomes and measures that reflect a desire for well-being of people in place. So we can help change the culture of educating our kids, no matter their subject area, interests, or career trajectory. So really, for us, is about going back to and blending traditional frameworks of learning, which, to be clear, are fully embracing of innovation, technology, adaptation, and change. So we believe that in educating our future generation, if they feel, see, taste, smell, and sense what a healthy place and peoples feel like, I believe they will fight to keep it that way and even to improve upon it. That is the job of education. Healthy aina, lands, and healthy families will produce healthy kids. And these healthy kids will turn into healthy adults and leaders, rooted in place, tradition, and always innovating for the future.
Thank you so much. I think that's very valuable, everything that you just said, and especially the deep connections to the environment, to place, to family, and that family extends to the ocean and the environment. I mean, that is such a powerful statement. Thank you for that. Our next panelist I'd like to introduce is Dr. Wilson Grimes, who is a research assistant professor at the Center for Marine and Environmental Studies at the University of the Virgin Islands. So we're going across the world here. And she's also the director for the Virgin Islands Water Resources Research Institute. And I'll have you know, at the University of Guam, that's 2 positions. So I know you're busy. She is the principal investigator for 2 major NOAA grants focused on coastal resiliency and community engagement. She is the co-chair for the Coastal and Estuarine Research Federation's Broadening Participation Council and leads the Seas Islands Alliance Virgin Islands Hub. That's part of a $10 million National Science Foundation funded network that supports students from middle school through to up to the workforce in the marine and environmental sciences from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Micronesia. Welcome. Tell us about the Seas Islands Alliance and your other efforts. How are you engaging and preparing youth with skills to create a sustainable global future?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to share more about the Supporting Emerging Aquatic Scientists, or Seas Islands Alliance. The Seas Islands Alliance establishes a national network to support students in coastal geoscience pathways from the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Micronesia. It builds upon two past successful National Science Foundation includes design and development launch pilots, projects that happened here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, as well as in Guam, as well as one National Science Foundation Improving Undergraduate STEM Education, or IUSE Award, in Puerto Rico. So NSF Includes is one of the National Science Foundation's Big 10 Ideas to Serve the Nation. And it's a comprehensive initiative that was started a number of years ago now to increase diversity, inclusion, and broaden participation in STEM. The Seas Islands Alliance engages students in the geosciences, specifically in marine and environmental sciences, by illuminating a full career pathway from middle school through to the workforce. And it increases their sense of belonging in STEM by connecting them across individual programs along their pathway, as well as across islands. We're also studying the ways that student development and pathways may vary across all of our different island settings in which we work. Building diversity in the geoscience workforce is incredibly important because the geosciences are the least diverse of all STEM fields, and we've made little progress on this over the past 40 years. Diversity is important because, as we heard Dr. Crespo say, we need diverse perspectives to solve complex coastal problems. Over the next 5 years, the Seas Islands Alliance will empower 425 youth in summer and school enrichment programs, 90 undergraduate students in research and career experiences, 65 graduate students through fellowships and a bridge to graduate school program, and 25 postgraduates in coastal science and education positions through the creation of a workforce fellows program. So in addition to her role with the sustainability program at Guam, Lauren Swedell, who introduced the meeting today, is actually Guam's new Seas Islands Alliance Workforce Fellow. So participants in the Seas Islands Alliance program, they receive scientific and professional training and experience, extensive mentorship, family support programs, and other cohort building activities to pursue and support their interests in marine and environmental sciences. And finally, just one last point, the Seas Islands Alliance is really the first of its kind to connect students across the Atlantic and Pacific basins in the ways that I described. And we're just so excited to be able to support and connect these island students. The project is just in its first year, but it will continue for the next 5 at least. And we really hope that it will create a strong foundation for continued connected work across our islands for many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson Grimes. We really appreciate that. And the numbers that you just mentioned, you're really going to be touching a lot of people. Well, this alliance will, and helping to build careers. So that's fantastic. And, you know, we do tend to think of Pacific Islanders, but there are Atlantic Islanders. So I think this is I know we're very excited about this program here at the University of Guam with Austin, Cheryl Sangeza, many of our faculty members. And so we're looking forward to it. And of course, Lauren, yes, we are so proud of you. Congratulations for everything you've accomplished so far, and we expect more. So let's give Lauren a hand for her, for her fellowships. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Sonia Zarate. And she is a program officer at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute and president of the Society for the Advancement of Chicanos, Hispanics, and Native Americans in Science. She leads national efforts to ensure that science is able to benefit from the potential that diversity holds. Prior to her current appointment at HHMI, she was the director for the Office of Undergraduate Research at the University of San Diego and the PI for an NSF research experience for undergraduates focused on transfer and veteran students, and co-principal investigator for an undergraduate biology education improving undergraduate STEM education grant for engaged teacher training. So welcome, Dr. Sonia Zarate, and tell us a bit about SACNAS and how you are engaging and preparing youth with skills to create a sustainable global future.
Thanks, Kathleen. Good evening and buenas noches. I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C., where it's already about 7:30 in the evening. And so what I would like to do at this moment is take the time to recognize the Piscataway people on whose land I work and reside on. And I'd also like to thank Austin Shelton for inviting me to participate, and all of you for your time. For those of you that don't know SACNAS, or maybe don't know the history of SACNAS, we are a 47-year-old multicultural and multidisciplinary scientific society that was founded on the heels of the Chicano rights movement, also known as El Movimiento. So in the early 70s, a group of Chicano and Native American scientists recognized the potential that diversity held for the nation's scientific enterprise. And these founders also recognized the lack of doctoral level scientists as a result of populations being historically excluded in science. And so even at that time, the data from the survey of earned doctorates, of the doctoral degrees that were awarded in science and engineering, 1% and 0.1% were awarded to Hispanics and Native Americans respectively. And so SACNAS was created. Our mission is to foster the success of Chicanos, Native Americans, and members of other marginalized communities in attaining advanced degrees, careers, and positions of leadership in STEM. And therefore, while the work of SACNAS does contribute to most of the sustainable development goals, we focus on quality education and reduced inequalities, including gender inequalities, as they apply to the scientific or STEM enterprise. And so I would say that SACNAS takes a multi-pronged approach that focuses both on increasing diversity and also on making the scientific ecosystem more inclusive. And so SACNAS provides year-round programming, including a conference. Last year it was hosted in Hawaii. This coming year, depending on the pandemic, we will be hosting it in Long Beach, California, from October 22nd to 24th. And so that conference has an exhibit hall, which is really where the magic happens, because that's where opportunities are introduced to all of the participants. And so this is an incredible opportunity to hear about all the things that they could potentially be doing. There's also professional development and scientific sessions, mentoring happens, and science communication with opportunities for students to share their research findings to a multidisciplinary scientific audience. So we focus a little bit on science communication. SACNAS also has 115 chapters nationally. These include student and professional chapters. We have chapters in Hawaii, Guam, and Puerto Rico. We also have leadership institutes. And so since 2009, we have prepared a cadre of over 300 postdocs, early, mid, and late career scientists and allies to lead change on their home campuses and institutions. And so SACNAS is really the only scientific society that sits in the liminal space between science, culture, and community. And so we also have a science policy and advocacy arm that takes positions on issues at the intersection of STEM and social justice as a way to reduce inequality. Issues such as Native American sovereignty, including the Dakota Access Pipeline and the 30-meter telescope, issues of immigration, specifically deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA, and more recently, racial injustice, and specifically state violence against Black communities. And so in terms of building capacity, I would say that SACNAS is really a model for inclusion in science. In other words, we model how to create an environment that values the whole individual. And so by creating these inclusive environments, we ensure that scientists are operating from both their head as well as their heart when solving the world's most pressing scientific challenges. And so we value community and believe that science should be for the greater good. And this isn't necessarily how science is done in the mainland. So to have a space that reminds students and professionals about the importance of sharing their gifts, that it is a good thing to bring that creativity, to bring their gifts to science, is something that is really contributing to a global sustainable future.
Thank you so much. I know that when our students go to SACNAS and they come back, they're just charged with energy, and they have a whole host of opportunities that, and their eyes are really opened at that conference to what is available out there for them, and the networking and the relationships that take place there are phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Now let's move on. We've got a couple of different questions, and we've got a few minutes to address these questions. And if you can keep your responses, panel, to about 1 minute, that would be much appreciated. And the first question is this, and we're going to start with Dr. Carlos Crespo. Each of us are approaching capacity building from different angles: biomedical research, geo-sciences, marine and environmental science, K-12 education for Native populations, fostering successes and leadership for underrepresented minorities in STEM. What are some of the most important contributions being made from your unique space to advance a sustainable global future? Dr. Crespo.
Thank you. So one of the things that our program does, it's a research study. So while we're doing the training and we're applying the best science that we know now, we are simultaneously collecting data that would help us predict success. Many of the things we're doing are relatively obvious, but yet you need to document what works and how well it works. So we collect data, for example, on how many times a student meets with a mentor and how many hours in a year. We collect data on how many hours they spend doing research. We collect data on their identity as a scientist. And all these things start giving you a picture of what are the best predictor that these students is going to remain in the program, and what are the best predictor the students going to continue. We do know their cognitive factors for sure. I mean, we do know that at the end of the day, they have to take their exams and they have to get good grades. And we don't interfere in that realm. That would be unethical for us to take their test for them. But what we do provide is the supportive environment. We call them non-cognitive factors. This sense of belonging, this sense of self-efficacy, identity. I think our students come in with this imposter syndrome, and sometimes they feel that they're not capable of contributing to science just like anybody else. And we have to work in that part. We need to be able to provide the students the energy and the motivation and the fact that they are actually as good as anybody else. And if they're provided with the resources and the support from people, they will do great things. And now that we see that we've been successful, these other students who are now in graduate school, they come back and the students are able to see that they can do it. So I from my perspective, one of the things that I value the most is how to build that self-esteem so they can actually move to the next level without having to apologize to anybody.
Thank you. Dr. Kå'eo Duarte, can you, do you have any thoughts to add?
Yeah, I think something we're doing, kind of to expand on what I said earlier. I mean, as we're an educational institution, but as the intro said, we also happen to be a large landowner in Hawaii. So something we're trying to do too is how do we take that position to walk the talk? If we're talking to our kids and we're producing education around these connections and values to place and community and around the SDGs and everything everyone on this call is about, how can we reflect our values as a Native trust by walking the talk and producing modern frameworks of business that are an extension of what we're saying in our education system and our cultural roots. So on the land side or the business end of our organization, if you will, we're really striving to how to seek to merge our Native Hawaiian values around things like financial returns. How does a Native Indigenous trust produce market returns while also equally valuing education, cultural, community, and environmental returns? Kind of a quintuple bottom line, if you will. And that's not easy, but I think that's the, again, learning by doing. So whether you're in our schools or in the business end of things, how do we continually learn and innovate? And our kids are watching. So the best thing we can do is to set an example of how we find a different path forward that can then trickle down and domino effect onto our education system and to provide jobs and pathways to bring these kids we're trying to educate from the ground up. So maybe I'll add that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to go now to allow Doctors Kristen and Sonia to give a short message to students and learners. What steps can they take today to achieve a sustainable global future? And this is for students and learners. And let's start with Dr. Kristen.
Sorry about that. I think one of the things that students can do today is to cultivate allies who will support you on your professional path and journey. So research shows that support, whether it's from family or friends, it's really an important predictor for student persistence in STEM. So what I say is tell your families, tell your friends what it is that you're learning, why it's important, and what excites you about it. My other hat, I'm a mud scientist, and I can tell you from personal experience that not everyone finds mud exciting. I know that's really hard to believe. But when I talk mud to my family, to my friends, they actually think it's exciting simply because I do. So trust me, that excitement, it's infectious, it can mean their continued support, and it's really what can change the world.
Okay, Dr. Sonia, can you give your final thoughts on?
Absolutely. I will quickly add, the idea that you can bring your whole self to the science that you do is so critical. We think about diversity, and we know that there's potential there for the scientific enterprise. As a matter of fact, you cannot have scientific excellence without the diversity piece. And so I just want to remind students that, when you bring your mind and your heart to the work that you do, you end up doing incredible things. So don't forget to bring your whole self.
Thank you so much. I mean, clearly, I think this panel could go on for an hour, but we have to move along to the next exciting panel. And I just really want to thank our panelists, Dr. Carlos Crespo, Dr. Kå'eo Duarte, Dr. Kristin Wilson Grimes, and Dr. Sonia Zarate. Keep doing the great work that you do, and we look forward to more partnerships with everybody. Thank you so much. And that concludes panel 1.